morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am here this morning, as most mornings, with David. And we are lucky to have this morning on the show an expert on the topic of purification.
Privilege is the right word.
Privileged, yes, we are privileged. My beloved is here with us this morning, Mordechai, and he's going to share with us more of the ancient and mystical, not only teachings, but technology behind spiritual cleansing and purification. But we also have to talk about a big opportunity that's coming up this week, which is the new moon of Aries, and understand how the two are going to support us to get to our next level, can support us in getting to our next level this week. We had Mordechai on the show a few months ago to talk about dreams. If you haven't listened to that episode, I recommend you go back and do that. As president of the fan club, I can tell you it was a very popular episode and lots of deep secrets in there. But this morning we're here to talk about how this week, according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, provides us with a unique opportunity to disconnect, detach from a lot of the negativity that we've accumulated definitely over the past year, but really it's an opportunity to get down to even deeper cleansing of negativity, perhaps from this entire life and even previous lifetimes.
And just so our audience knows, some of the topics we'll be talking about, negative energy. If you feel negative energy in your home, around you, when you feel there's judgment around you, I think maybe we can touch upon people have questions and confusion around negative forces, positive forces, angels, souls, ghosts.
Right, it sounds like the Halloween episode, but it's the middle of March.
I think people have questions about all this stuff, and not to make Kabbalah look weird, because Kabbalah is really just understanding how energy works in our world. But all of these things that we've seen in Hollywood movies and stuff that we've learned about as children, there is some precedence for them. And Kabbalah kind of makes it practical and makes it easy to understand. And I know Mordechai will be able to shed some more light on it.
Yeah, it's not just who you're going to call.
Right.
It's beyond
Although that may be part of the
part
solution. The Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual energy forecast. David and I, and occasionally guests, prepare ourselves to provide for our listeners the most powerful and practical wisdom and advice, suggestions, prescriptions, and that today's show is a great example of that. What is the prescription this week for taking advantage of the opportunity to cleanse negative energy this week? And those prescriptions can also be applied year-round. So I think the first question we want to ask is, what are we talking about when we talk? What are we cleansing? I shower every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Feel pretty clean right now, actually. And, you know, I'm a good person. I do good in the world. I'm not negative. I'm not angry. I'm not violent. I don't curse. I don't, you know, I try to be as angelic as I can. What do I have to cleanse?
The thing is that our houses, our cars, the restaurants we go to, the clubs we go to, wherever we go to, cinemas, everything is like we're like sponges. Whether we want it or not, we keep on accumulating energy. Now, sometimes the energy is great, the energy is positive, and sometimes the energy is not so positive. And it can be that it doesn't have to be someone that you interact with right now in the same room. It can be even someone who is thousands of miles away, just having negative thoughts about you. But it's not only that. Sometimes we can have an argument, or we can have just thoughts of feeling low, feeling like I'm not feeling my self-worth. It can be actions that we take, reactions that we have. All of those, they accumulate within us. So yes, we do shower. Thank God for that. Great invention.
Hey.
Right? So we do shower. It does some of the cleansing, but there are certain things that stick into the jar, stick into the vessel, and you can't just get rid of it with taking a shower. We know about people that went through a trauma, and they went to the shower and washing themselves, and they feel the filth is not coming out. So this is, of course, an extreme example, right? But these things happen. So whether we're aware of it or not, it's happening.
So I have a question. How does a person know? Our audience is listening to this and saying, all right, that's fascinating. How does a person know? What are some signs or messages that I have negative energy, a threshold, maybe a problematic threshold of negative energy, either on myself, maybe we can talk about
in
in the home,
environment.
in my home, because I think everyone's kind of a little obsessed about the energy of the home, because we know that's really important. That's where we spend most of our time. So how do I know if I have negative energy around me? How do I know if I have positive energy around me? What are some telltale signs?
So, beautiful question, David. So, the environment constantly communicates with us.
Okay.
So, for example, and it's in different levels. It can be in animal kingdom if you have a pet. So the pet can behave, let's say, in a weird way because they are more sensitive to energy. They try to show you
More
that something
instinctual.
they try to show you that something is going on. They see stuff. They feel stuff.
They see and feel stuff that humans don't.
Yes. It can be in the plant kingdom, right? That you have a plant. You keep on bringing this plant. You love this plant. And it keeps on dying.
Wow.
Or like bugs on it. And it can be also in a level of...
Bugs on it is a bad sign?
Depends which kind of bug.
You're saying
right?
stuff and you're going to start freaking people out. So I really want to understand. Bugs on a plant, too many bugs coming to a certain place, or let's say all of a sudden infestation of something.
Yes, infestation.
It's a negative sign.
Yeah, it's something is the universe is trying to get your attention. And it can be also inanimate objects. Things fall, things break. My mom has a relative, a very close relative, that every time she comes to the house,
things are breaking.
one of the plates.
Your mom's house,
She has
you mean?
yeah, my parents' house. They have a collection of plates. Every time one of the plates
Falls
breaks.
off the wall.
Wow. That's good.
So I mean, come on, it's like
It's good to know, I mean.
it's very obvious.
That's interesting. It's interesting because we have like certain friends or people that we know that every time we're around them, a problem comes up, or someone gets upset,
Right.
or someone gets hurt, and it seems like this friend, quote unquote friend, is so innocent, not really doing anything, but everywhere they go, they create somewhat of destruction.
In my,
And it can be that the person loves us. It's
Yeah.
not like they just unintentionally.
I'm
with
sure
the laser
also
beam.
many people, if you have small children or you've had small children, sometimes they have these unexplainable, I don't like that person or I don't want to be here. And we know that children, at least under 3,
If it's
are
a baby, right, starting to cry
more
without a
connected
reason.
to the spiritual realm than the physical realm. So they can present evidence that we can't see. So I always, if any of my kids under 3 had a bad feeling about someone or something, chances are, I listened at least.
It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It could just, let's put it in perspective, because I've seen, it's going to make you feel bad every time a 2-year-old cries at you. So what could it also mean? In something positive. In a positive
I know
way.
for a specific example, one of my kids had an issue with a particular individual that we would see socially because of siblings, families, and whatever. And I think that it had to do with an anger issue. Like this child is particularly sensitive to outbursts. And this was a person who I knew from chatting with their significant other would just have fits of rage.
I remember that.
And it was
Also-
like a
also,
frequency, a vibration that again, him reacting to that person is not saying that person is bad. Right. What he was picking up on is a vibration, a resonance that was not in a range that the child wanted to be around.
Right.
Right.
And it could have just been something of that day. It doesn't mean that human being as a whole is negative. It just
Right.
means maybe in the
Absolutely
last hour
not.
they had reactive thoughts, or there's something that's following them, a spirit, a negative
Yeah.
force.
And there's also the more advanced stuff. We feel things.
Well, but by the
We
way,
feel things.
your kid wakes you up in the middle of the night and says, "There's a monster in my
Yeah.
room," and we tell
We
them
had
no.
it.
We tell them no, there isn't. But the truth is, they may be seeing spiritual forces that we can't see because we're now
That's right.
adulterated. And to tell them that there's nothing there
Yeah.
is in a way diminishing telling them not to trust their
The gifts
spiritual
that they can
compass.
see. Our little one said a few times, "Daddy, I want you to kill it. There's a monster here." I said, "Where is it? Show me." She said, "Over there, on the wall. I'm trying to show you." And I don't see it.
Nice. Nice.
And we'll talk about what you did for that
Yes.
in a little bit. So let's go back to the original question. when we talk about cleansing, right? I think that David and I often talk in the show about how no person is more powerful than you are when it comes to your tikkun, your soul's journey. You're the one who really creates that script, that path. But then here we come and we say, well, listen, if there's negative energy around you in your home, in your office, if somebody's thinking negatively about you, that can affect you adversely. To me, it sounds like a bit of a contradiction.
In what sense?
No one is more powerful than me, right? The choices that I make, the restriction I exercise, the sharing that I do, that's what creates my movie. But now we're saying negative energy can affect my movie. Negative energy, I understand my own negative energy can create my movie.
Right.
How does someone else's negative energy affect my movie?
And how do we protect from it? Yeah.
So it's very interesting because the light, that's what we teach, the light is always stronger than the darkness. But we should never underestimate the darkness. The darkness also is very powerful. And, just to get the idea, right? Try to have, let's say, I'm sure we all had it in one way or another. Try even once to share with someone about a project or something that you're really excited about. Try to share, let's say, with 10 people. Doesn't have to be with 10 people. And let's see if the project actually manifests. Why? Because the moment you start to speak before it fully manifests, there are already forces that catch on the energy. So as powerful as you are and as much as you are connected to the Creator, there are forces out there that oppose to us to help us grow, to help us reveal the light that we meant to shine. So for the game to be fair, those forces have to be powerful.
Yeah.
So as much as powerful as you are, there has to be the same, at least the same level of resistance to help you grow, like in the gym. This machine, these negative forces are there to help us grow and to overcome. And sometimes it does feel like, oh my God, I don't know how can I handle this. And for this, there are certain weapons.
There's this accumulation of negative energy. How can I ever expect to be pure? I have lifetimes of poor choices, selfish choices. I don't know, gossip. I have a whole, not me personally, of course, I'm just representing the average Joe. This whole archive of gossip I've done. Or, something I think about often is like the political climate is quite volatile, and there are people who insult one another based upon their political beliefs. Are we talking about cleansing that? Are we talking about cleansing witchcraft? Like, I think that this is
I want to cut in here because there's something we spoke about on the way over here. Let's break it down. Mordechai shared this with us. Thoughts, words, and actions are either creating positive forces or negative forces. So I want our audience to be able to just conceptualize the idea that throughout the day, we're creating something.
Yes.
Some force is being created. In Kabbalah, we have names for these forces. Probably the most common name, which has been misconstrued, is an angel. And the definition of an angel, and maybe you guys can add to it, in Kabbalah is a force of energy. It's just a force of energy that communicates a certain purpose. So a positive angel, quote unquote, would have a positive mission to contribute, build, or support you in some way. And then once it does its purpose, it disappears. Mm-hmm. A negative angel is going to somehow create pain or suffering or destruction, all for a positive purpose, of course, because even pain pushes us in the direction of change. And then that negative force is done. And for all of us to understand that our thoughts, words, and actions are creating positive or negative forces. So there's no neutral. There's no neutral force.
If it's not proactive, the default is reactive.
Exactly. If I'm not building, I'm destroying. If I'm not creating a positive force, I'm creating a negative force. Even if I'm just talking to myself, let's say I'm cursing to myself. It's like, I'm complaining to myself. I'm not hurting anybody, but I am creating an energy. And if that energy is not helping, it's hurting.
So one of the way to look at it is like a bank account. You have a spiritual bank account. You cursed, you spoke in a negative way, you just withdraw from the ATM. Mm. You deposited, you went outside of your nature, you helped someone, you just deposited. So all day we are depositing or withdrawing, and again, at the end of the day, there's a balance. So when the balance gets to a place that it's really like crazy deficit, then there needs to be something. A physical thing, a physical manifestation that rebalancing, or at least like if you have
Like a chapter 11.
Yeah,
it's like a spiritual chapter 11.
If it's
Or
not
two big guys with baseball bats.
like
Yeah,
five,
someone's coming to collect.
yeah, but not to diminish it completely, but at least to
Create a balance.
to create some balance. So per your question, when we do, let's say I cleanse myself in one way or another, we never, as long as the end of pain and suffering hasn't arrived, we're never gonna cleanse ourselves completely. What we do through the work that we do, through the different things that we can do, we are rebooting the system. Rebooting to a certain level of degree. Like your computer gets stuck, what do? You reboot. So the moment you start and this is what we share with people, the moment you reset your balance, or at least close to resetting, now it's up to you, but you're still going to accumulate things, and this is why there's maintenance.
All right. So before we're getting into solutions, I want to just keep awakening more things to get people to go, for our audience. So words, cursing, just cursing, complaining, evil speech, we've learned. And I think that creates the most abundance of negative energy, because if I say 40 words in a conversation, and all 40 are kind of guided towards me wanting to hurt someone or me wanting to just vent, there's proactive vent, and then there's simply reactive vent. Let's say it's the reactive vent. I'm creating 40 negative forces. These 40 forces follow me everywhere I go. They follow me to the grocery store. They follow me home. They follow me to my business meeting. I know for us as speakers, we speak in audiences. We're speaking on a radio show. I know that I know if I go to a lecture, I don't want these negative forces coming to the lecture with me. Because my audience, even though I'm saying one thing, my audience is going to feel something else. Think about it. Imagine I have 5,000 negative angels following me to a Kabbalah 1 lecture. 200 people are listening to us. And even though I'm saying something that sounds great,
it's rubbing them the wrong way.
It's rubbing them the wrong way. They're getting agitated.
They're judging everything.
Because these 2,000 negative forces are going into the audience and
like
whispering something
filtering.
else in their ears. Right?
Exactly.
I heard something that, especially people who are looking to be in a long-term committed relationship, as a single person, as you're dating, you need to act with the proper spiritual laws of dating and relationships, as we've learned. Because if you're doing something reactive that's not befitting of who you want to be in a relationship, I heard, this is one of the most powerful things I heard growing up in spirituality, is you create negative forces that go into your future soulmate and whisper in his or her ear how horrible you are. Can you imagine? It's like bad. It's like bad PR to your soulmate, and you could be on the other side of the world just doing your own negative thing, but it's affecting your future relationships. It's affecting your future business partnerships. It's affecting your customers.
And you can come with the best opening lines, the best sales pitch.
Doesn't matter. It's the unseen world that matters.
Exactly.
Before we get to the solutions and some of the opportunities that at least Kabbalah shares with us on how to proactively cleanse, if this week is going to provide us with the opportunity to cleanse without forgetting about the technology that we're going to talk about in a moment, what does an opportunity to cleanse look like? Thinking about our thoughts, thinking about our words, thinking about our actions, what are some things our listeners can do when those situations come up? And how can we identify an opportunity to cleanse? And what do we do with it?
Well, there are many different ways to cleanse. Yeah, of course, you can start with the basic stuff that we all know, which is a shower. There can be a meditation that you can use to help you cleanse internally. You can do physical things like even detoxing your body, juicing or whatever that is. You can amend certain relationships, calling people this week, and asking for their forgiveness, forgiving other people, being able to look inside, even doing a meditation before you go to sleep. So many things that we can do in the day-to-day, and as you said before, more than anything, to be conscious, because this particular week is a window in time that all those opportunities are coming to us again, so we can do it differently. And by doing it differently, we get to cleanse.
And I want to add, we're going to share tools and physical things that people can do to cleanse. We're going to talk about what Mordechai does in a moment. But I do want to emphasize to our audience that in Kabbalah, the most powerful, always, the most powerful way to cleanse is through our spiritual work.
So this is what I want to make sure that is clear, is that this week is going to give us opportunities to
Do
purify.
our spiritual work.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
So you may have an opportunity to humble yourself, to look bad, right? You want to say something, you need to do something, and your thought is, well, I'm going to look like such a jerk. It might be the universe telling you this is an opportunity for you to cleanse something that you've been those baggage that you've been dragging around for who knows how long. If you embrace that opportunity and accept, you know what, it's important enough, I'm willing to risk looking bad, or I'm willing to be the bad guy, or I don't know, there's so many different ways, but to me it's very much about the ego fearing to
That's
appear
right.
a certain way.
Right.
Whenever you have the opportunity to sacrifice your ego, it's an opportunity to cleanse.
And asking for help and looking inside and asking questions that you might not be ready to hear the truth, but at least asking the question, what is this person trying, what's the message this person is trying to give me? What is this situation trying to teach me? I'm open. Even though I'm not feeling that I'm open, I don't want to hear it. I'm open, please. The Creator, help me to see it. Help me to transform it.
I consolidated a list right now of all of what you both just said. From the spiritual side, we're going to get to the physical cleansing in a moment. The spiritual cleansing is, we've learned in Kabbalah about our soul has something it needs to correct from past lives. We come into this world to correct those things.
Can we talk a little bit about the work that you do when you do
Yes, we
the space cleansing? And I think included in that is a personal cleansing as well that we want to hear about. So maybe you can talk about where does it come from? Like, give us a little background on the process. I know, David, you've seen it in action before. You can.
Yeah, if I give a platform for Mordechai has Mordechai has many specialties, but the two things that we know him for, that we go to Mordechai for, is dreams, of course.
The rest is not yet fully revealed.
What's the
The
rest?
other things.
The other. Well, that's
That's
two
in
is
another
enough.
What David knows about. Let's talk about what
Yeah,
David
just-
knows about.
Two more than two would be over. Your energy would be overwhelming me. So the second thing is that, and I've seen this in action. Mordechai and a colleague of ours, Yehuda, their specialty is in cleansing energies, spaces, and people. And you have an incredible pedigree and background of how you guys have traveled the world to learn how to do this from great Kabbalists, from ancient writings, from spiritual beings all around the world. And the first time I saw this in action was Mordechai came to a house of a student of mine and did a full cleansing. I've seen miracles. It's a great tool. It's a great support system to the spiritual work. Let's be clear, this does not
Doesn't replace
the spiritual work.
Yes.
If you have negative energy, there's a root of something you're doing or something that has been done, you need to take responsibility for. But to further the process, to help support that process.
To level the playing field.
Yeah, this is
That's right.
rebooting. This
Yeah.
is resetting, but then it's up to you. It's in your hands how much you're going to contribute or...
So give us some background on what you do, what it is.
So it's with the blessing of my teacher, Karen, that Karen gave me and my colleague, Yehuda Ashkenazi, the blessing to study this ancient technology. And I say technology because this is a technology, very ancient, that started in Morocco. And we actually traveled to Morocco several times throughout the training, which the training took up to a year.
Wow.
Between 3 to 6 hours a week. And it's also going to Morocco, going with our teacher, Karen, to Morocco to train us to go to visit the energetical places, to understand each mineral and each herb, what is it doing, going in the markets and actually picking the best herbs. Everything that we use, we actually bring from Morocco.
So I want to interrupt. I'm sure many of our listeners are familiar with, let's say, saging.
Yeah.
Right? Saging is
Yes.
very common, very
incense,
popular,
yeah.
or incense, or I've seen a lot of conversations, even in magazines and things like that, about it. How does that differ? I'm sure a lot of our listeners even sage once a week, right?
Right.
How does tell us what's different about what you do. What's the procedure and how it differs from maybe the Native American?
First
Yes.
say what you do, because I think people still don't
sorry.
understand. Minerals, plants, what are you doing with
so
these?
the
minerals?
space cleansing is a service that we use Moroccan herbs, Moroccan minerals, to allow us to do two main things. One is cleanse negative energy, and this can be, again, from events that took place, people that said different things, reactions, words, actions, and thoughts.
Things that happened, even let's say you're doing it in a house, it can be the previous owner had some kind of
That's
right.
negativity going on there that has nothing to do with you, but it's still.
And many times
the
we do
walls.
ask about the history of the place. So we cleanse negativity and we add positive things, healing, blessings, financial openings, prosperity.
So you have different herbs and spices for
Yes.
different. How do you know what to use?
Almost 30. That's why we studied it. The one who taught us mainly this, he lived in Morocco for 6 months, and he studied it from one of the people in one of the peoples in the villages. That this is what he has done all of his life. It's like coming from one generation after another, from one Kabbalist to another. So after all of this, he trained us, and when we come, we actually have 4 layers on top of the sage that we use as the base. And the sage is great. You know,
Has
we
a
use
power.
it. Yeah, it has a power. Sage, regular sage is good if you're really in a high, elevated consciousness. It's good for 3 months. And but there are certain things that sage cannot cleanse, like I don't want to scare people.
You're allowed to say it on radio.
Demonic energy, entities. These are things that sage cannot really deal with it. You need like serious
Sage
chemist.
cleanses a bad day at the office that you bring home with
Yes. So on top of the sage,
you. Sage cleanses CNN and Fox News from your living room.
So on top of the sage, we put a mix, which is called in Moroccan bkhor, a mix of 20 minerals and herbs.
And I saw you guys do. You guys actually like do
He
it
sits with
raw.
a cheese grater.
This isn't
with
like a
rocks
prepackaged.
and
That-
a
This
cheese
isn't
grater.
like a prepackaged herb from Amazon. This is like a mix, like a trail mix. They actually have all these rocks there, and they're grinding.
You need to
it.
come to our house and smell the different smells on the different shelves.
Can imagine what your kids are saying all day long.
So that's the bkhor, that's the 20 minerals. On top of it is the rocks that you saw.
Yeah.
There are 3 rocks. Their name's Jawi. It's from mountains in Morocco. Have 3 colors, one for each one of the energies. So we have the white one for positive energy, right column, sharing, love, unity. We have the left column, which it looks like blood. When you put the rock
Yeah.
on the fire, the rock looks like it's bleeding. That's helping you with strengthening your desire, fighting negativity, fighting for what you believe in, having a spine. And the gray one is for balance, for healing, for central column, being able not to react, being able to restrict, being able to pause. And on top of this layer, which we grind actually the rocks, David actually saw this.
I saw it. Yeah.
On top of this, we put a very special thing. It's from the sap of the almond tree. It's collected once every 10 years.
Wow.
That's why it's the most expensive thing, because the tree produces it only once in 10 years. And that stuff is the only one that smells bad when you come next to a place, a corner or a place, that there is a demon, a negative energy that doesn't want to live. Demons are like humans in the sense that they are made out of elements similar to us. We are made out of 4 elements. Demons are made out of 2 elements, fire and air. We are comprised out of all the 4 elements, fire, air, earth and water. And that's why they multiply, and they are fed from the energy that we give them, being aware or not, and they also die. So when we start the process, my colleague Yehuda Ashkenazi, and we all have our fortes, we all have our strengths, so we know what I'm good at, he knows what he's good at, and sometimes we switch in certain places. So we do a meditation, Yehuda leads the meditation, and we do it with the person that owns the house because we want you to experience it.
So you find out from them what are the issues,
Yes.
what are they
There is
looking
a
for.
consultation period.
Yeah,
before.
we do a tour in the house before we start, And Yehuda does the meditation. We invite the Creator and the angels of the hour, the day, the exact
There's special
moment
angels for each hour, each day.
in that moment in the house.
Yeah.
And we also invite different Kabbalists, especially the Moroccan Kabbalists, to come and support us because we're not cleansing. We know that the
You're
Creator
just
and the angels,
the pot
we're
and the
just
kettle.
holding, I'm just holding the thing. And in front of me, they walk in front of me. The angels, the guardian angels, the righteous Kabbalists, and of course the light of the Creator. And Yehuda is behind me reading constantly Zohar Balak, which is
Zohar is an ancient spiritual text.
for diffusing negative energy, the main text of Kabbalah. And what we say in the beginning, part of the meditation, we ask from the Creator, the angels, and the righteous Kabbalist that whoever needs to stay in this house and support will stay.
Like,
Whoever
for example,
doesn't need
you
to
might
stay,
have somebody, an ancestor in your family that their soul protects you, or
we don't want to kick them out.
The process. No, I think it's important because it sounds a little scary to think about. There's demons. There's also positive forces that protect and support us in our spiritual growth. So it's important to know it doesn't banish everybody from the room. You're inviting those positive forces to stay and be strengthened.
Absolutely.
And only working on the
That's
negative.
right.
And we give them a choice. We give them a choice. You either leave right now, those that don't need to stay, or we're going to use the cannons. And some of them don't want to leave. So we have all those layers, and it's just beautiful. We see in 4 ways if there is resistance. One is the smoke. If the smoke is white, it's great, it's clear. And if it's black, there's something going on.
You have
they
a
resist.
pot where you put all the herbs in, and there's a
Right.
huge flame, and you're carrying this around the house, and there's smoke coming from it and different smells.
Yes.
It's crazy because it's constantly telling you what's going on in each room.
Everything.
And then Mordechai and Yehuda are guiding and saying, okay, this is what's happening now. This is what we're cleansing now. This is what the feedback we're getting from each room now. It's a play-by-play.
It's like
and
a
it's an
detector.
hour or 2 hour long
Well, it
process.
depends on how big the space is.
That's right.
It's approximately 30 minutes for 1,000 square foot.
Yeah.
Something like this.
As long as there isn't a struggle or something like that,
Yes.
right?
So sometimes there's more resistance. So we can see it with the fire, with the sound. Sometimes the fire makes a sound like tick, 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 tick. And sometimes we see it with the smell. So
You see it with the smell.
we smell it with the smell. Yeah. We can see it with the smell. So sometimes it smells like a dead animal.
Yeah.
And that's the demon that refuses
Like the smell
to
is
live.
changing when you get
Yes,
into an
that's right.
area where there's something there.
And the beauty is, let's say this is the room that we're cleansing. I can be holding it here, and it won't smell. It would smell great. The other stuff smells great. I can put it here, and it smells bad. I move it back, it smells great. It's just like
amazing.
It's great.
unbelievable. It's no, sorry, let me correct myself. It's not unbelievable. It's actually very believable because it's just so accurate. And the last thing we can see also according to the height of the flame. If it goes very high, there's resistance. Or if the fire goes down, so every time we need to relight it,
Someone
then
is trying
there's
to sabotage the
they try
process.
to resist.
I also want to say that you guys have a whole preparation that you do starting from the morning. You
Yes.
fast. You don't.
We
eat.
fast because we don't want the physical food to be absorbing the energy. Until we finish with everything, we cannot eat.
Yeah, you do ritual.
We do
purification.
spiritual immersion in
Water.
water before
And you have
after.
special clothing that you only wear.
Special clothing head to toe,
Yeah.
without going into details, right? That and again, it's made from linen, so it gives us the protection.
That's right.
And we have other things that also protect us that people are not so aware of it. And once we finish, we throw everything. It's like contaminated. We throw it.
Hazmat.
Yeah, it's like a spiritual
We
hazmat suit.
throw it to the washing machine, and after washing it twice, we can wear it again.
Wow. I remember the first time you did this, you told me not to be there because it's somewhat dangerous, actually, because sometimes as you're doing this work, it's like get out of the OR, get out of the operating room. And the second time I went with you, and I did go with you, it was very intense for me. I started to feel lots of emotions I probably didn't even want to feel, and I had to excuse myself a couple of times.
Well,
And
I
we
wanna-
do it also for the individual. At the end of the space cleansing, we do it for the individuals, the owners, or
That's
whoever
right.
resides
That's
in the
right.
house. And you can see also with the smell, with the smoke, as we go through their energy field and we cleanse it,
Yeah.
you can see it smells here or it makes a noise here, but next to the chest, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can see like health challenges, you can see what's going on in their mind, what are they blocked with.
I want to reiterate for our audience that this is not to replace our spiritual work. This is a tool to support our spiritual work. And even though it sounds mystical, it's very scientific. It's simply understanding the unseen energies. We're all very familiar with things that we can see with our five senses. And then there's a world that we don't see, but it is affecting us. And we're all, I think the world is more and more open to that unseen world.
Right.
And
we've
done it tens of times.
You had a great story of somebody who actually invited you to their work.
Yes.
Right. Well, you tell the story, but
So
without incriminating anybody.
Yes.
Tell
This
the story.
gentleman is in a high position in his work. It's a non-for-profit organization. And without going into too many details, 18,000 square foot. And he told us that you guys have to come because I don't know what to do anymore. He just came into this position and he saw crazy corruption. All the board members taking crazy amount of money, forging documents.
Wait, but the whole point is that, at least what I understood, is that they brought you out there because the organization is involved in a lot of what's going on in politics now. That's one of the hotter topics.
It's because it's funded by the government.
Right. So you guys came in, and within like 10 days, the corruption was.
So we did a meditation, we did all the cleansing, we flew in to that place, we did it, and we flew out.
It's a separate country. It's a different country.
No,
Yeah.
different
It's a
state.
Different state.
Uh-huh.
And we said, we don't know how it's going to play out, but we know one thing. This energy has to change. We don't know how it's going to play out. Some people might leave, some people might join. Within less than 10 days, people started to, and we went in through, it's like hundreds of people, hundreds of desks. We came just amongst the hundreds of desks, there were 3 desks that smelled really bad from the sap of the almond tree, known as the fasuch. And we told him, I don't know who sits here, but there's something going on. And he even didn't know who sits here because he's new to this.
Yeah.
Like maybe a few months in the job. And less than 10 days, all of the 3 resigned and new people joined the team.
Wow.
And it's like they didn't know what's happening. We did it on a Sunday.
Right.
And you have hundreds of stories like this. I mean, you guys
Hundreds.
You're
I
constantly
haven't
traveling
had
the
one
world.
time. We haven't had one time that someone said, "No, it was okay." You know, I
Right.
didn't really feel like
Right.
anything. I didn't see it. I didn't experience anything.
Yeah.
Everyone is blown away
Yeah. Every 3 or 4 days, you guys are traveling the world. You're in a different country. You're in a different continent.
because it's not us. It's really the power of the Creator, and we get people to experience the power of the Creator firsthand.
Nice.
Well, there's an interesting section in the Zohar, it reminds me of, that says that all forms of healing can come through the plant kingdom, but the reason it doesn't is so that people will
Not rely on it.
Yes.
right. The plants would become their god,
Yeah.
Right.
and they would lose touch with the creator of the universe.
This is there to strengthen your connection to the Creator, to your intuition, to the power of believing in yourself, and to trust your gut, your gut sense.
That's what I love about Kabbalah, because we're always talking about how Kabbalah is a holistic system of how to live life. There's so many great practices out there that focus on a certain specialty. There are other organizations that do cleansing, maybe not the way we do it, but they do cleansing, or they teach a concept. They teach about how to connect to happiness in certain ways. What we're trying to do with Kabbalah is give a practical, holistic approach that combines and integrates everything into one system of how you can live your life in a normal way, in a balanced, normal way. You don't have to go to the mountains. You don't even have to, you don't have to like give up everything. In fact, the practical life that you live, invite these tools in, and it's going to transform your life. It's going to bring it to a better place.
So if you are interested in getting more information about the space cleansing, there's a QR code on the screen, or again, anything that if you're only listening and don't have a visual, you can always email us at energyboost@kabbalah.com, and we can send you whatever links so that you can learn more about it. But you do travel. It's not only
Yes.
a LA thing.
With the support of my wife.
Yes, I can tell you he travels. But again, I mean, like you said, if there's so many miracles. I just that example was a very sort of mundane one. We've heard there was.
I can write a book already.
I remember there was someone else who had. You went to a warehouse, right? There was a merchandise had been stuck there for years.
$300,000 worth of merchandise
Wasn't being moved. Like no one was buying.
nothing.
Years.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And less than 24 hours after, boom. Like the guy says, everything just opened up.
I got an order
And there was a crack in the floor. The floor cracked open.
while you were doing this.
No, we did it. And the next morning they came to the office and they saw the warehouse. The floor cracked open. And I actually have a picture.
No, but I think it's important because, like, we often talk about how our actions create ripples, right? You know what happened physically, but we're not always aware what happened spiritually. We know that we have challenges in our life, but we don't always know the root of those challenges. And this is another example of a tool we can use to clear out what we don't need to be dealing with focus on
and
the
not only
important
that,
stuff.
we also doing we add in positive energy. So if you don't feel you have negative energy in your life, that's great.
Right.
But we can add positive energy, more prosperity. A couple is expecting. So you can cleanse the room for the baby, the house,
I think
everything is there.
I remember talking to somebody who was looking for this particular kind of support, and she said, "Listen, my family just had a crazy year, and I want it behind me. Is this gonna help?" And the answer is yes, because it's not, again, nothing was wrong. No one did anything negative or evil, but from the stress and fear and frustration and tension and panic, and they had different health scares throughout the year that ended up being relatively okay, but the periods of anxiety and pain around it devastated them. So again, it doesn't need to be, I think somebody cast a spell on our family kind of thing. It can be, the day-to-day that just accumulates.
And I want more energy. I want more positive energy. Why not?
Beautiful.
Well, you accumulated a lot of positive energy by joining us this
Thank you.
morning.
Thank you.
Again, if you have questions about anything that we spoke about today, you're more than welcome to put them in the comments. If you're watching, if you're listening to the podcast, you can always email us at energyboost@kabbalah.com. Do not forget to rate and review us if you are listening to the podcast. You can find us on Facebook, IGTV, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Stitcher. And we'll see you next week for the continuation of the 12 Days of Aries and even more mind-blowing stuff next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.